Hello everyone, and welcome to Fandom Canon. Today we're doing a follow-up episode to my 3.5-ish things that would improve Star Wars Episode 1. You can click here to see the original. In the decade and a half since its release, Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, seems to have emerged as the worst of the prequels. The combination of excessive CGI use, long expository scenes, and the fact that the dialogue is campy, even by Star Wars standards, makes this one stick out. And yet, there's some good in this movie.
There is still good in him.
So here's 4.5-ish things that would improve Star Wars Episode 2. Number 1. Padmé's love of Anakin. This is perhaps one of the easiest flaws to overlook. Lucas is maybe not the best at writing romance, and that's fine, few people are. By the time we join Han and Leia in Empire, the sexual tension has already been building between them for several years off-screen. But Padme and Anakin have not seen each other in 10 years. So Lucas was at a disadvantage writing a story in which they fall in love and get married within the length of a single movie. But something that would make this entire thing justified and more believable is if we knew more about Padme's culture. I mean, her people elect teenagers to the position of queen. Is it possible that maybe they mature faster than most societies and are more quick to jump into commitments? I mean, she spends a couple of days with the guy, then they survive a nasty battle together, and then they get married? Now, this is believable for him, since he essentially has the romantic maturity of a 9-year-old, seeing as how the Jedi Order discourages such things. But we need to see some excuse for why she is willing to dive headlong into this relationship. Audiences are already willing to accept people falling in love just because they survive something dangerous together.
I've heard relationships based on intense experiences never work.
But we need for these two to be either dating at the end of the movie or to know a heck of a lot more about her culture for this to be believable. Number 2, Anakin's attitude. I don't believe Hayden Christensen is a bad actor. There, I said it. Much like Jake Lloyd, he was at the disadvantage of poor directing and writing and not being British enough to mask the terrible dialogue with a pleasant accent.
How many times I told you? Stay away from carb couplings!
He had the challenge of playing an angsty teenage Jedi. I mean, what would that even sound like? Maybe they should have just cast a British teenager. But they didn't, and so we have to work with what we've got. And Anakin needed to be written to be quite simply more likable. He can be a jerk, but he still has to be loved. And he needs to be likable, not because he's the lead in the film, but because the saga is developing a compelling villain, and compelling villains are often likable. Which brings us to number 3, Dooku's boringness. I will never insult Christopher Lee's performance for fear that he will rise from the grave and come for me. But, well, we hear about how this Count Dooku guy has a fiery rhetoric and is able to whip a large part of the Republic into rebellion. But then we don't see that. A better Dooku would be one where he gives compelling speeches, talks to Jedi like he truly cares and fears about the dark path the Republic has taken, hints that there is a Sith Lord manipulating things, and then, bam, reveals himself to be a callous monster the whole time. Instead, he just always seems kind of evil, even when he is supposed to be compelling. And then, yeah, no, he's just evil. Number 4, poor use of CGI. When Lucas set out to make these movies, I like to imagine that he thought to himself, well, no one cared when entire scenes were nothing but miniatures being blown up. No one said anything looks too unrealistic, so why should anything be different if I have entire CGI scenes? And in a way, he was right. Why should it matter? I know that a lot of people like to criticize the amount of CGI in the prequels, but I think it was more how the CGI was used. There are subtler ways to use effects in a film. As a good example of this, I always like to point to the sequence in Revenge of the Sith where Obi-Wan is chasing General Grievous. While most of this scene has gratuitous use of CGI, as soon as Obi-Wan jumps onto Grievous's unicycle thing, the editing of the shots changes to an older style where quick jumps and close-ups keep us focused on the action and keep our minds off of the effects. Almost everything in this shot is CGI, and I'm not thinking about that because of how it is edited. And that brings us to the half in our 4.5 things. The only times the movie does what I'm saying and has CGI in the background as mere ambiance are during the long, boring talking head scenes. Seriously, the first half of this movie is nothing but a parade of scenes where people talk in front of gorgeous backdrops, with a brief detour to fight Zamwizel. Anyway, that's all I've got. I hope you enjoyed it. Give me some feedback for small changes that you think would have had a big impact on this film in the comments below. Give me a thumbs up and subscribe to show your support for the channel. And be sure to check out my other videos on Star Wars, as well as other fictional works. And as always, thanks for watching.